Then a rock was through. She chased it. I just kind of stopped, took the phone out, gazed the hill, kept looking.
He's still up here.
Not just one, he says 3 different Bigfoot stared at him from the hill.
Each year, hundreds of Bigfoot sightings are reported across the United States. While many dismiss these encounters as myths or hoaxes, some researchers have dedicated their lives to uncovering the truth. Despite the lack of conclusive proof, there are consistent patterns, massive footprints, blurry images, and unsettling experiences that defy conventional explanations. The question arises, why does the government seem uninterested in addressing these sightings? For researchers, the silence is deafening, especially when new evidence emerges that demands investigation. The truth might be far more significant and threatening than anyone is willing to admit. Doug Teague's encounter in North Carolina. In August 2019, Doug Teague went into the woods near his home in Hickory, North Carolina, to check his trail cameras. Accompanied by his dog, Daisy, what started as a normal day quickly turned into a terrifying encounter. The forest, unusually silent, seemed to hold its breath as a rhythmic knocking sound echoed through the trees. The sound felt deliberate, as though something or someone was trying to communicate. Doug soon spotted a figure unlike anything he had ever seen before. Standing tall, covered in tangled fur, and exuding an aura of immense power, the creature loomed against the trees. It wasn't a bear or any other recognizable animal native to the region. Its broad shoulders and muscular legs hinted at strength far beyond that of any ordinary animal. As Doug watched in shock, the creature began throwing rocks in his direction. The stones landed near him, a clear warning to back off. Fearful but unwilling to leave without evidence, Doug kept his camera rolling, capturing every moment of the encounter. When the creature finally retreated into the forest, Doug returned to the site and discovered massive footprints far larger than any humans. Recognizing the importance of what he had found, Doug made plaster casts of the prints. Theories about Bigfoot variations. Doug's evidence reignited interest among experts and enthusiasts. Some speculated that he had encountered a regional variation of Bigfoot, known as the Eastern Bigfoot. Unlike the stereotypical descriptions of Bigfoot from the Pacific Northwest, this variation was believed to have distinct physical features. Experts analyzing the footprints estimated the creature's height to be over 15 feet, a shocking claim that aligned with other sightings across the country. Not everyone was convinced. Skeptics argued that the prints could have been altered by environmental factors or fabricated as part of an elaborate hoax. The debate underscored the broader controversy surrounding Bigfoot sightings. How much of it is real and how much is fueled by imagination? Modern sightings in Illinois. The legacy of unexplained footprints continued in 2015 when a man in Illinois came across a bizarre scene while searching for mushrooms. He found a massive footprint, approximately 12 inches wide, pressed into the soft ground. Part of the print appeared to be missing, as though something had taken a bite out of it. Nearby, another footprint was partially filled with water, adding to the mystery. Encounters in California. The sightings didn't stop there. In 2020, a hiker in California's San Gabriel wilderness captured video footage of a massive figure standing motionless between the trees. Estimates placed its height at 10 to 15 feet. Despite the blurry quality of the footage, the figure's proportions and stance didn't match any known animal in the region. Encounters across North America. In 2021, a kayaker in Michigan captured footage of what appeared to be a massive, human-like figure crossing a river. The creature's upright posture, deliberate movements, and size set it apart from any known wildlife in the region. The video, while blurry, showed enough detail to spark widespread debate. Some argued it was definitive proof of Bigfoot, while skeptics claimed it was just another case of mistaken identity or a hoax. Around the same time, a UK nature enthusiast known as Woods documented an unsettling discovery in a forest where he had been living. Upon returning to his handmade shelter one day, he found it completely destroyed. Initially suspecting teenagers or a wild animal, Woods reviewed footage from his security cameras. What he saw shocked him: a massive, shadowy figure moving swiftly through the area, far larger than any human or known animal. The figure tore through the structure with ease, leaving behind broken branches and claw marks on nearby trees. These sightings continued to blur the line between myth and reality. In each case, the evidence, blurry footage, massive footprints, and unusual behavior, pointed to something extraordinary. But as reports grew in number, so did the silence from authorities. Cannock Chase, a hub of eerie activity. Cannock Chase Forest in Staffordshire, England, has long been associated with strange phenomena. In 2021, a Bigfoot enthusiast named Lee Brickley began investigating the area after hearing rumors of unexplained sightings. His search led to the discovery of footprints that were far too large to belong to any known animal. Each print measured about 41 centimeters, nearly twice the size of a human foot. Not long after, Brickley came across a deer carcass. Its throat had been savagely torn open, and deep bite marks covered its body. The attack appeared far too violent for any local predator, raising the possibility of a large, unknown creature lurking in the forest. These findings, combined with reports of strange sounds and sightings, fueled speculation that Cannock Chase might be home to a creature similar to Bigfoot. Adding to the mystery, locals reported hearing eerie, rhythmic knocking sounds in the forest at night, a phenomenon often associated with Bigfoot sightings in North America. This connection led researchers to wonder if these creatures might exist in multiple regions worldwide, each adapted to its environment. The Patterson-Gimlin film, a cornerstone of Bigfoot folklore. The most iconic piece of evidence in Bigfoot lore remains the Patterson-Gimlin film, shot in 1967 in the forests of Northern California. The footage shows a large, hairy figure walking along a riverbank before briefly turning to look at the camera and disappearing into the woods. The creature, nicknamed Patty, has become a symbol of the Bigfoot phenomenon. Experts who have analyzed the film are divided. Some believe it provides definitive proof of Bigfoot's existence, citing the creature's unique gait and muscular build as evidence. Others argue that the film could easily be a hoax, created using a man in a costume. Despite decades of scrutiny, the footage remains one of the most debated pieces of evidence in cryptozoology. What makes the Patterson-Gimlin film so compelling is its level of detail. Unlike modern sightings, which are often captured on low-resolution devices, this footage provides a clear view of the creature's movements. Supporters of its authenticity argue that no human could replicate the fluid, non-human gait seen in the film. Skeptics, however, continue to question its validity, pointing to the lack of corroborating evidence from the same area. Historical connections. The Battle of Ape Canyon. Long before the Patterson-Gimlin film, tales of Bigfoot-like creatures were already part of American folklore. One of the most infamous accounts comes from the Battle of Ape Canyon in 1924. A group of miners reported being attacked by large, ape-like creatures while camping in a remote area of Washington state. According to their story, the creatures hurled rocks at the cabin and tried to break in, forcing the miners to defend themselves by firing their weapons into the darkness. The incident became a cornerstone of Bigfoot lore, lending credibility to stories of aggressive encounters with unknown creatures. While skeptics argue that the miners may have misidentified local wildlife, believers see this as one of the earliest documented accounts of Bigfoot behavior. The description of the creatures, large, hairy, and throwing rocks, matches modern reports, suggesting a continuity of sightings across decades. Government silence and public skepticism. Despite the abundance of sightings, evidence, and historical accounts, the government has remained largely silent on the topic of Bigfoot. This lack of acknowledgement has fueled conspiracy theories among researchers and enthusiasts. Many believe that authorities are deliberately suppressing information to prevent public panic or protect sensitive ecosystems where these creatures might reside. Skeptics argue that the sightings are nothing more than a combination of hoaxes, misidentifications, and folklore. They point out that many pieces of evidence, such as blurry videos and plaster casts of footprints, can easily be faked. However, believers counter that the consistency of reports across different regions and time periods cannot be ignored. The debate often centers on the question of why no definitive proof, such as a body or clear high-resolution footage, has ever been found. Supporters of the Bigfoot phenomenon argue that these creatures are highly intelligent and adept at avoiding humans. They also point to the vast, unexplored wilderness areas where such creatures could potentially thrive without detection. Mount Everest, the Yeti connection. While Bigfoot is often associated with North America, similar creatures have been reported in other parts of the world. In 1951, explorer Eric Shipton discovered a massive footprint high on Mount Everest. Measuring 13 inches long, the print appeared in the snow at an altitude of 19,000 feet, a height where few living creatures could survive. Shipton's discovery sparked international debate, with some claiming it was evidence of the Yeti, a legendary ape-like being said to inhabit the Himalayas. The harsh conditions of Mount Everest made the discovery even more puzzling. Shipton's photograph of the footprint became an iconic image, fueling speculation about the existence of the Yeti. While skeptics argued that the print could have been created by natural forces, the mystery remains unsolved. The Shipton footprint serves as a reminder that sightings of large, unknown creatures are not limited to one region or culture. Michigan River encounter and new evidence. In late 2021, a kayaker in Michigan captured video footage of what appeared to be a large, human-like figure crossing a river. The creature's upright posture and deliberate movements immediately sparked debate among Bigfoot enthusiasts and skeptics alike. Unlike many reports, this sighting occurred in an open area, providing a clearer view of the creature than most other encounters. While the footage was undeniably blurry, the creature's sheer size and unusual gait set it apart from any known animal in the region. Believers hailed the video as a significant piece of evidence, arguing that the creature's behavior and appearance aligned with previous descriptions of Bigfoot. Skeptics, however, pointed out the limitations of the footage, noting that its lack of clarity left room for interpretation. Despite the ongoing debates, this sighting added to the growing body of evidence suggesting that Bigfoot might inhabit remote and rarely explored areas of North America. The Michigan sighting, like many others, raised questions about the creature's intelligence and ability to evade detection. Destruction in the UK forests. In the same year, a UK nature enthusiast living in a remote forest made a chilling discovery. Returning to his handmade shelter one day, he found it completely destroyed. At first, he suspected local wildlife or even pranksters, but security camera footage revealed a far stranger explanation. The footage showed a large, shadowy figure moving swiftly through the area. Its size and movements ruled out the possibility of a human intruder or any known animal. The figure tore through the structure with ease, leaving behind broken branches and deep claw marks on nearby trees. Locals in the area had long reported eerie sounds and sightings, but this incident was different. The level of destruction and the evidence left behind suggested that something far more powerful and dangerous was present in the forest. The nature enthusiast set up additional cameras to gather more evidence, but the creature remained elusive. Idaho's night vision footage. In Idaho, another significant sighting occurred in 2021. A video posted online showed a large, muscular figure captured on a night vision camera. The creature stood motionless for a moment, swaying slightly as if adjusting to its surroundings, before disappearing into the darkness. Unlike many other videos, this one provided a relatively clear view of the creature's size and movements. The video quickly went viral, with many viewers claiming it was the most convincing evidence of Bigfoot yet. Experts noted the creature's strong, upright posture and the thick texture of its fur, details that would be difficult to fake. While skeptics continued to argue that the footage could be staged, the video reignited interest in the possibility of undiscovered creatures living in remote wilderness areas. The connection between sightings. What makes these reports particularly compelling is the consistency of the descriptions. Across different regions and time periods, witnesses describe similar features: massive size, muscular build, upright posture, and fur-covered bodies. Additionally, behaviors such as throwing rocks, making rhythmic knocking sounds, and leaving large footprints are frequently reported. This consistency raises questions about the nature of these creatures. Are they a single species spread across different regions, or could there be multiple variations adapted to specific environments? The idea of regional variations, such as the eastern Bigfoot and the Yeti, suggests that these creatures might share a common ancestor or origin. Why the silence from authorities? Despite the growing body of evidence and the consistency of reports, the government remains silent on the issue. This lack of acknowledgement has fueled conspiracy theories among researchers and enthusiasts. Some believe that authorities are deliberately suppressing information to prevent public panic or protect sensitive ecosystems. Others argue that the government might be conducting its own investigations behind closed doors. For researchers, the silence is frustrating. Many have dedicated their lives to uncovering the truth, only to be met with skepticism and dismissal. The absence of official recognition has made it difficult to secure funding or conduct large-scale studies. Yet, the sightings continue, and the evidence keeps piling up. The debate over Bigfoot evidence. Skeptics often argue that the lack of definitive proof, such as a body or clear, high-resolution footage, undermines the credibility of Bigfoot sightings. They point out that many pieces of evidence, such as plaster casts of footprints and grainy videos, can easily be faked. Believers, however, argue that the consistency of reports across different regions and time periods cannot be ignored. They also emphasize the vastness of wilderness areas, where creatures could potentially thrive without human interference. For them, the lack of a body is not surprising, as these creatures are believed to be highly intelligent and adept at avoiding humans. A global phenomenon. The reports of Bigfoot-like creatures are not confined to North America. From the Yeti in the Himalayas to the shadowy figures of Siberia, similar sightings have been documented around the world. These global accounts suggest that the phenomenon might be more widespread than previously thought. In Siberia, for example, students in 2013 captured blurry photographs of a massive figure moving through the forest. They followed its tracks, which were far larger than any humans, but the creature vanished before they could get closer. In the UK, reports from Cannock Chase Forest describe footprints and eerie sounds that closely resemble those reported in North America. These international sightings raise interesting questions about the origins and nature of these creatures. Are they remnants of an ancient species that once roamed the earth? Or could they be a modern-day mystery waiting to be solved? The unsolved mystery. Despite decades of sightings and investigations, the mystery of Bigfoot remains unsolved. The evidence is compelling, but it has yet to meet the rigorous standards of scientific proof. For researchers, the quest to uncover the truth is both a challenge and an obsession. Each new sighting, footprint, or video adds to the growing puzzle, keeping the search alive. For skeptics, the lack of definitive proof is enough to dismiss the phenomenon as folklore or hoaxes. But for those who have encountered Bigfoot, the experience is life-changing. They describe a creature that is both fascinating and terrifying, a reminder that the wilderness still holds secrets we have yet to uncover. The evidence so far. The accounts and evidence surrounding Bigfoot present a compelling, albeit fragmented narrative. From Doug Teague's encounter in North Carolina to the mysterious destruction of a forest shelter in the UK, the stories share remarkable consistency. Witnesses across different regions and eras describe similar characteristics: towering, fur-covered creatures with massive footprints, deliberate movements, and behaviors that suggest intelligence far beyond that of ordinary animals. Historical cases, like Eric Shipton's discovery of a massive footprint on Mount Everest in 1951, add a layer of credibility. Such footprints, often found in remote and inhospitable areas, continue to challenge explanations rooted in conventional science. Meanwhile, modern sightings, supported by video footage and physical evidence, such as plaster casts of footprints, have reignited global interest in the phenomenon. Despite these findings, skeptics remain unconvinced. They point to the absence of a physical specimen and the prevalence of hoaxes as reasons to doubt the existence of Bigfoot. Yet, for many researchers and witnesses, the sheer volume and consistency of sightings cannot be dismissed as mere coincidence or fabrication. The role of the government. One of the most interesting aspects of the Bigfoot phenomenon is the apparent silence from governmental and scientific authorities. Despite decades of reports and evidence, there has been no official acknowledgement or large-scale investigation into the existence of these creatures. This has led to widespread speculation that the government is deliberately withholding information. Some theorists believe that acknowledging Bigfoot's existence could lead to public panic, particularly if these creatures are proven to be as intelligent and potentially dangerous as many reports suggest. Others argue that protecting sensitive ecosystems or avoiding disruption to commercial activities, such as logging and tourism, might be reasons for the secrecy. For researchers and enthusiasts, the lack of government support is both frustrating and suspicious. Without official backing, investigations are limited to private efforts, which often lack the resources needed to conduct comprehensive studies. The skeptic's view. Skeptics argue that the evidence for Bigfoot is circumstantial at best. Videos are often blurry, footprints can be fabricated, and eyewitness accounts are prone to errors and misinterpretations. They point out that no conclusive proof, such as a body or skeletal remains, has ever been found, despite decades of searching. However, proponents counter that the absence of a body is not surprising. If Bigfoot is a highly intelligent creature, it might actively avoid humans and even bury its dead to protect its existence. Additionally, the vastness of unexplored wilderness areas, combined with the creature's potential nocturnal habits, makes detection extremely difficult. Bigfoot gets famous. While almost everybody today, from young to old, knows of or has heard about Bigfoot, the creature was not as famous as it is now. Bigfoot became famous when the news media heard of a story about Ray Wallace, a road contractor working in Northern California, who, in his curiosity, made plaster casts of giant footprints that he found near his worksite in 1958. Following this, hundreds of similar alleged Bigfoot footprints, recorded clips, and a few handprints claimed to belong to the mythical creature have been reported. Although most people believe that these prints were made by Bigfoot, bears or other giant ape-like creatures are responsible for making some. On the other hand, some of these prints are fake, and many others remain unexplained. A few months after the California evidence, in October 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin decided to do their own exploration.
Something emerges from the brush, an enormous animal Patterson and Gimlin have never seen before. They think it might be Bigfoot. Patterson and Gimlin then hurry back to their campsite to grab some plaster. They know they're going to need as much proof as possible.
They targeted the woods in search of Bigfoot evidence near the place where Wallace claimed to have found his Bigfoot tracks. But that was not the only place the mythical creature was claimed to have been sighted. In Bluff Creek, they sighted a hairy creature strolling through a clearing, and they managed to film a short video from a reported distance of about 80 feet. The resulting clip is blurry and difficult to interpret, but clearly shows something unlike any animal known to inhabit the region. To some, this is clear proof that Bigfoot lives among humans, but to others, it is merely a man or a woman in a gorilla costume trying to fool people. But how can one tell the difference between something real and a hoax? The stories of the creature gain popularity day by day. With the creature's possibility of threatening the safety of the citizens, the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation decided to look into it and enlighten the people. What they released is too harsh a truth for people to handle. The U.S. government releases evidence of Bigfoot. According to the newly released file on Bigfoot, which arrived at the FBI records vault on June 5, 2019, the agency was involved in at least one particular incident in Bigfoot history. With their state-of-the-art equipment and resources, the feds analyzed a biological sample that at one point was thought to belong to Bigfoot. But where did they get the sample from? In the 1970s, a renowned Bigfoot investigator, Peter Byrne, who was then the director of the Bigfoot Information Center and Exhibition, investigated a possible credible sighting of the mythical creature.
Forest roads, always on the side. So that, I think the reason is they see something, they can nip in quickly. Or they see a hazard, they can nip in quickly. Always on the side. And the same with the Bigfoot.
During his expedition, according to reports by the Washington Post, Byrne acquired a sample of several hairs and some skin that was believed to belong to Bigfoot. After this, Byrne wrote to the FBI several times in 1976, asking if they would perform a detailed analysis of the hairs, which Byrne noted that his group was unable to identify. Maybe they did not have the necessary equipment, but that's not all. Byrne also wanted to know if the FBI had analyzed suspected Bigfoot hair before, and if so, he asked them to tell him what their conclusion was. The letters he wrote to them make up most of the FBI file and are now available to the public via the FBI Records Vault. Yes, the publicly available file mostly deals with Byrne's quest to get the hairs analyzed by the government. The contents of the file also feature a lot of correspondence between Byrne, Assistant Director of the FBI's Scientific and Technical Services Division, J. Cochran Jr., and Howard Curtis of the Academy of Applied Sciences in Boston, with which the Bigfoot Information Center and Exhibition was affiliated. In the beginning, the correlation mainly consists of Byrne and Cochran going back and forth with each other regarding approval for the analysis, but eventually the request is finally accepted. Cochran addresses Byrne in a letter dated Dec 15, 1976. Cochran wrote, "The FBI laboratory conducts examinations primarily of physical evidence for law enforcement agencies in connection with criminal investigations."
Bigfoot may be an urban myth to most people, but in the late 70s, the FBI was investigating whether or not Sasquatch really existed.
Occasionally, on a case-by-case basis, in the interest of research and scientific inquiry, we make exceptions to this general policy. With this understanding, we will examine the hairs and tissues mentioned in your letter. In the letter, Cochran also instructed Byrne where to send his hair and tissue samples, along with a request for any available background information concerning the source of the specimen he might have had. Unfortunately, Byrne never received this letter, according to the Washington Post. Howard Curtis of the Academy of Applied Sciences, however, did receive the letter on Byrne's behalf, so he sent along the samples. The analysis was duly performed, with Cochran writing back to Curtis on Feb. 24, 1977, with the results. According to Cochran's response, the hairs that Curtis had delivered to the FBI laboratory on behalf of the Bigfoot Information Center and Exhibition had been examined under incident light microscopy for root structure, medullary structure, and cuticle thickness. However, the microscopic screening was not enough. The hairs were also compared directly with hairs of known origin under a strong comparison microscope, after which the FBI was, in fact, able to make a conclusion. What they found was not what they expected. It was finally made clear as a result of these examinations that the hairs belonged to a creature in the deer family. 4 decades later, after the screening of the specimen, the Bureau declassified its Bigfoot file. This does not mean that the FBI endorses the existence of Bigfoot. In the same way, the U.S. military's decades-long investigation of UFOs and UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, is not an endorsement of the existence of aliens. To back this statement, Benjamin Radford, a well-known American writer and skeptic of the paranormal, said, "All it means is the FBI did a favor to a Bigfoot researcher. There's nothing wrong with that, but it shouldn't be mistaken for de facto government endorsement of the reality of Bigfoot." Despite the fact that the government does not endorse the existence of Bigfoot, or at least they have not yet found hard evidence, those who believe in the mythical creature will choose to see it the way they wish. According to Radford, Bigfoot believers tend to love the idea that there's a smoking gun in the FBI files. He believes that they are convinced that Bigfoot must be real. Otherwise, the FBI wouldn't have taken the matter seriously and invested their resources to find the truth.
The Washington Post tells us that the legend of Bigfoot was so fascinating to a man named Peter Byrne that he actually became an expert on it. And after one such sighting, he sent a clump of hairs that he believed belonged to Bigfoot to the FBI, asking them to test it.
Radford did not stop there. He consistently supported his stance that Bigfoot does not exist by claiming that the FBI didn't send out a team of investigators to look for Bigfoot. Instead, they agreed only to run an analysis of 15 hairs. To him, this meant that they did not take the issue seriously enough, but rather agreed to help a researcher finish up his homework in order to shed some credible light to the masses and end the nonstop fascination about the creature. To add more layers of controversy to what is already an unusual case for the government to be involved in, the then 93-year-old Byrne didn't seem to recall receiving the FBI's response that the Bigfoot hair he had sent them was actually deer hair. Knowing that Byrne had been out of the country for several months, Cochran sent the letter to the executive vice president of the Academy of Applied Science, which was associated with Byrne's Bigfoot organization. The executive wrote that he would give Byrne copies of the response letter from the FBI when he returned. Yet when the FBI released its Bigfoot file, which was exclusively about Byrne's inquiry, on June 5, 2019, Byrne reacted as though he were hearing that it was deer hair for the first time. "Obviously, I can't speak for Peter Byrne," Radford said, "but if you're going to make a big enough deal about this unknown specimen to give it to the FBI, then you're not going to want to publicize the fact that it turned out to be deer." As disappointing as the revelation is, the case is not yet closed. For all people know, the FBI could have Bigfoot documents but were not willing to show the public, and this is all just a clever strategy to throw the masses off in the search for Bigfoot. Is it possible that they hid the real findings in order to maintain peace? If people knew that the creature existed, they would also believe that other paranormal activity like aliens and UFOs was true, leading to national chaos. This can't be further from the truth, as numerous people claim to have encountered the strange creature and even recorded it on tape. Civilians' encounter with Bigfoot. In 2019, a Hickory resident and Bigfoot hunter, Doug Teague, filmed what he claimed to be one of the clearest videos of a North Carolina Bigfoot ever seen.
Looks like he's looking over top of that stump. Look at him. He's moving.
He was walking his dog in the woods just outside the city. While checking some trail cams, he heard a loud knocking in the distance. He got closer, spotted an unrecognizable creature on top of a ridge, and began recording it. He followed the huge creature's footprints and took casts of them. Doug claimed that as he got close to the creature, it began throwing stones at him, something a bear or another animal could not do. Later, the footprint casts were looked at by an anthropologist who thought that the footprints belonged to a creature about 15 feet tall, something other experts agreed to. This is the approximate height of Bigfoot, according to various sources and myths. But could what Doug saw be the real deal? Or was it just another human being dressed in a gorilla costume? Another alleged Bigfoot encounter happened in 2020 in San Gabriel Wilderness, California. As a hiker pulled out his camera to record the stunning landscape, he spotted a creature among the trees below and zoomed in. The creature seemed to be around 10 to 15 feet, although it appeared not to move. This claim of seeing the creature was dismissed as the area was not a regular Bigfoot sighting. But those are not the only claims of evidence of the creature being found. A well-known explorer, Eric Shipton, famous for conquering many of the world's inaccessible peaks, told his own story of the Bigfoot, or rather, what he thought to be Bigfoot. In 1951, Shipton climbed Mount Everest, and while passing through the pool of the Moon Lounge Peak at an altitude of about 19,000 meters above sea level, he claimed to have come across Bigfoot. He encountered a footprint 13 inches long in the snow, unmistakably for a giant monkey-like creature. He took pictures comparing the size of the footprint to his pickaxe to demonstrate the gigantic size of the footprint. The trail of the footprint stretched for about a mile and then disappeared. Shipton was not lucky enough to have direct contact with the creature during his journey through the thick snow and rocks. Maybe this was his lucky day, as nobody knew how dangerous or violent the creature was when in close proximity to humans. As if that's not enough proof, in 2015, a mushroom hunter got more than he asked for when hunting for rare mushroom species from a forest in northern Illinois. He recorded a rare type of clip and uploaded it to his YouTube channel, Tomorrow's Garden. As he recorded the various mushroom species he encountered, he was interrupted by a loud howling in the woods.
I think it's time to go.
The howl seemed to be made by a creature that was in pain, and the howl was like nothing he had ever heard. Although the howl scared him, he assumed that the creature was in pain after eating some of the poisonous mushrooms, judging by some of the mushrooms he had initially encountered with fresh bite marks. Till now, Bigfoot has mostly been associated with the rural mountainous areas in America and Alaska. This makes sense since Native American tribes' folklore speaks of the creature in different lights. However, there are several lesser-known Bigfoot sightings in the United Kingdom. For example, in 2021, Lee Brickley, a Bigfoot enthusiast, claimed to have found tracks and claw marks that proved that an ape-like creature was living in the forests of Britain. He found the alleged evidence in Cannock Chase, Staffordshire. Yet this is not the first time this place has had reports of strange creature sightings. For centuries, this 26-square-mile forest has had countless instances of paranormal activity and supernatural phenomena. There have been reports of child spirits, UFOs, werewolves, and sightings of Yeti-like creatures dating back to the 1800s. To prove that his theory was not just a fuss to get people's attention, Lee took pictures of footprints that measured 41 centimeters from toe to heel, nearly twice the size of an average male footprint and far too large to belong to any native animal of the UK. A month after finding the footprints, Lee found other claw marks close to the same area with a mutilated deer covered in bite marks and its throat ripped out. The funny thing is, these sightings seem to have increased in number since 2019, making many believe that a humanoid creature lurks in these woods of England. All these reported cases and recordings by people from different parts of the world raise the question of whether Bigfoot is a single creature or whether there are other humanoid creatures like it all over the world. With contradicting information from the FBI and citizens, some researchers decided to independently conduct their own research using other scientific methods out of curiosity to try and get to the bottom of it. Through the eyes of a genetic researcher, an Oxford University geneticist well known for his research on human evolution conducted a comprehensive DNA analysis of hair samples that were believed to be from Bigfoot. Published in 2014, his study aimed to analyze dozens of hair samples from all around the world. Sykes decided to analyze the DNA of what was regarded as Yeti samples, thinking that there was a 5% chance that he would find something interesting, a new mammal species. Yes, he did want to find traces of Bigfoot, but the possibility of finding undiscovered animal species was more fascinating to him. And the universe did not disappoint. In 2012, Sykes and his colleague Michel Sartori of the Museum of Zoology in Lausanne, Switzerland, posted a call for hair and other samples thought to be from Yetis, Bigfoot, or any other weird species unknown to science all over the world. The researchers went ahead and compared these stretches of DNA to known species in the GenBank database, which catalogs thousands of species of animals. And in came the hairs. There were hairs from famous expeditions, including a trek by Sir Edmund Hillary, hairs from museums, Buddhist relics, and quite a lot of material from Bigfoot enthusiasts in the United States. Sykes narrowed down 95 samples to 37 that were most interesting based on the circumstances of their collection. Of those 37, the team was able to extract DNA from 30. When giving a report of the findings, Sykes said, "A lot of them turned out to be very ordinary animals in their natural habitats." As the team reported on July 1st in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B, supposed Yeti and Bigfoot samples turned out to come from bears, brown, black, and polar, horses, raccoons, one human, and some canines, which the test didn't narrow down if they were wolves or dogs. They also reported DNA of cows, sheep, a North American porcupine, a Malaysian tapir, and a serow, which is a known animal similar to a goat or antelope. All these findings did not fall under the scope of Bigfoot-related findings.
FBI has now released their findings, and at the time they tested the hairs, and spoiler alert, they belong to a deer.
But 2 hair samples from the Himalayas really left him shaken. These hairs, both brownish in color, perfectly matched a short stretch of DNA once extracted from the jawbone of a 40,000-year-old polar bear. Unfortunately, the hairs did not match modern polar bears. One sample of hair came from an animal that had been shot 40 years before the investigation in Ladakh, India, by a hunter who reported that it behaved differently from typical brown bears. The researchers' best guess was that the hairs were from either an unknown bear species or a hybrid of a brown bear and a polar bear. Such hybrids are known in the Arctic, but genetically resemble modern rather than ancient polar bears. If there was a Himalayan hybrid, it might have descended from a different, long-ago interbreeding between the species. However, since the match between the 2 hairs and the ancient polar bear resulted from a fragment just 104 DNA letters long, the result was only the beginning, and the team hoped to do further analysis despite having no external funding for their research. To Sykes, if there was a previously unknown bear species living in the Himalayas, it may be what people there had seen and reported as a Yeti. To back this, Coleman said that those findings would be consistent with those reports and that the idea of a white, abominable snowman came from TV shows like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. In the end, publishing data in a respected, peer-reviewed journal was a big step for cryptozoology, even if it meant finding out that Yetis don't exist. At least, that's what the data from the samples they had access to had to say. Moreover, Sykes pointed out that he hadn't actually disproven that the animals exist. He believed that there's always some chance, however small, that the right sample just hadn't been collected. To summarize his findings, he said that Bigfoot chasers can go back into the forest knowing that if they get a genuine sample, it can be identified, and to a standard that everyone will accept, native versus modern perspective. Following the 1958 Bigfoot alleged sightings, woods workers east and west of the Cascade Mountains began to report seeing tall, ape-like creatures. On top of that, they began discovering their immense tracks along logging roads, enhancing public recognition of the Bigfoot name back then. Witnesses observed these so-called humanoids crossing roads at night, striding furtively through forest and mountain terrain, or digging for and eating ground squirrels in rock piles. Bigfoot quickly entered into the occupational culture of loggers, manifested as serious stories, jokes, chainsaw sculptures, and fabricated prints as playful pranks. By the 1970s, former Yeti hunter Peter Byrne had established the Bigfoot Information Center at the Dalles, gaining national media attention for his documentation of eyewitness testimony and footprints cited as evidence for a new species of primate.
And basically what we're doing, in a nutshell, is gathering all of the information and putting it into a computer against a prepared database and looking for patterns. And then when we find these patterns, we will apply technical equipment in various forms.
Footprints in dirt or snow continued to be found and reported to various organized groups who have followed Byrne's efforts. But that's not all that has been happening. Native Americans in Oregon have increasingly situated Bigfoot within traditional belief systems as beings with deeply rooted cultural significance. Tribes in coastal Oregon related Bigfoot to ancient tales of wild men who lurked near villages and left immense tracks, as described in Clara Pearson's tales from the Nehalem Tillamook. Members of plateau tribes, such as those at the Warm Springs Reservation, identify Bigfoot as a stick Indian. To them, Bigfoot is a diverse category of potentially hostile beings who stole salmon or confused people by whistling, causing them to become lost. Sightings and stories continue on reservations today, representing a spiritual connection to the pre-contact past and the resilience of indigenous cultural heritage. More recently, Bigfoot in popular culture has devolved into a series of sports mascots, children's entertainment, and cryptozoological reality shows. It has also been playfully promoted in state legislation and celebrations. Politicians in both Oregon and Washington have proposed bills to protect the creatures from hunters, and hairy humanoids have served as official state mascots. First as Harrison Bigfoot for Washington's centennial in 1989, and then Sesky the Sasquatch for Oregon's sesquicentennial in 2009. A number of prominent writers have reflected thoughtfully on the tradition in literature that explores changing attitudes toward the natural world. Through fiction and science writing, they have depicted Bigfoot as a kind of charismatic being that emerged in the modern environmental imaginary as an icon of enchantment and endangerment. To them, the mythical creature exists to re-mythologize connections between humans and the wild in the region's compromised but not unredeemable landscapes. While the idea of believing in the existence of mythical creatures gives a sense of mystery and meaning to human life, it is also good to be logical about the case of Bigfoot. This begins with people asking themselves why it has been so hard for scientists to get the remains of Bigfoot if they have managed to get fossils of dinosaurs over 2 million years old. Logically speaking, it's either the legendary Bigfoot does not exist, and if it does, it is not ready for the spotlight just yet, hence the evasive nature of the creature.